when you have to get up in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and train for whatever reason, work or busy schedule, so you're trying to get the training session in early in the day to get, get it all done. It's cold, all that sort of stuff. It's cold, it's, the whole family sleeping in the house, it's a cozy bed, you have to get up and train in a cold, freezing gym, and your soul, your body looks for excuses, and it makes it really hard for you to get out of bed. So instead of walking in here and doing one set of 100 and dreading that idea, I've kind of worked out mini mental steps to get me going. Because once I get going, everything seems all right. It's just the first step is usually the hardest. Getting out of bed is the hardest. So there's mental cues, I guess, if you want to call it, that I use to tell myself, no, I'm just gonna get up and do this, and then after I do that, I end up doing something else, and then it's like a snowball effect. So for me, when I get out of bed, get out of the bedroom, and I get down and end up just doing push-ups. So my current thing with push-ups is that I'm kind of greasing the groove, like I'm doing push-ups throughout the day whenever I can, and I do 90% of my max. So that's the thing right now. And so I get out of bed and I do push-ups. I find push-ups quite easy to do. The first 10, 15 reps, you don't feel anything, 20 reps, you don't feel anything, and then it gets harder a little bit as you go along. So it's kind of like an intermediary step between the bed and the freezing shed, where I have to get really uncomfortable and, put the bar on my collarbone and squat it, which is uncomfortable in many different respects. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can kind of segment hard things, mental things, into several different mini steps, and then they become easier. And so from a bird's eye view, it seems as though I have a lot of willpower, because I've gone out of bed and I've done a 1 rep max in the same minute. It's not like that. Like I always tell myself different things just to get going, because I think most of the time the excuses win over people, because I think people think in a big picture. They think, oh, I have to squat for 50 minutes. So when you're in your warm bed and you think to yourself, I have to go to the cold shed and squat for 15 minutes, it's a daunting task. But if you say to yourself, I'm just going to get up and do some push-ups, and you just think about that, it's a lot easier to get up and you go do your push-ups, and then next thing leads to another thing, and blah, blah, blah. So it's a lot of this is mental. Squatting every day is more mental than physical, I feel. So you just have to kind of trick yourself into taking the initial step, and then it keeps going. But anyway, let me bust out the first set. Ooh, I'm wearing the wrong clothing now. This thing is making a half a meter front rack. So I'm gonna take the blue shirt off. Ooh, chilly. I was talking to a colleague last night at work, and the conversation went down the lines of, what's the point of squatting every day? You know, she's kind of not in the game of lifting, so it was a really interesting exercise for me to explain to her why I do what I do and what the return is for my efforts. And she said, "Have you improved?" And I said to her, I have. I've put on 5 kilos on my PR. Now, when you say to somebody that doesn't know much about lifting, and you say 5 kilos to her, the thought automatically is, it's a whole bunch of effort for not a lot of return. So then the conversation kind of naturally led to, what was the expectation year by year on progressing your lifts? What's acceptable, and what's the acceptable amount of effort you're willing to put forth to get those results? Now, if you say if I say for the next 10 years I'm going to put 5 kilos a pop on my let's just say on my squat, so let's just say in 10 years time, that's 50 kilos, right? 5 kilos every year, 10 years, 50 kilos. So my squat is going to be 240 kilos. So by then I'll be 40 kilos, 40 years, 240 kilo squat. Now, I wouldn't be happy with that, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't, like if I knew that was going to be the end result, would I stop right now and not worry about it? I wouldn't. And that's what I was trying to explain to her. For me, it's not just about the little number on the bar, because I feel like there are lessons on the journey. There are benefits, vast benefits, that you get throughout the act of training. Yeah, sure, you get stronger. The weight on the bar goes up, but that's not just the end there. There's a lot more things going to it. I was also saying that I'm training my mind as well. In fact, you could argue that my mind gets trained a lot better than my physical body, because, every morning I get up and I do this, and it's a battle, and I feel strong. When I finish the training session, I feel like I've accomplished something. So I'm teaching myself discipline. I'm teaching myself routine. I'm teaching myself goal setting. I'm teaching myself how to get there, and I'm fighting for something, working for something. And I truly believe the more discomfort you put yourself through, the stronger you're gonna get. So, is it acceptable after 10 years to do only 240 kilos? Probably I wouldn't be happy, but the answer to the question is I'll probably go through it every time. So for me, training is like I said, multifactorial. It benefits me in many different respects. But also you have to remember that, 240 kilos is a lot better than somebody that's not doing anything. Anyway, I remember a friend of mine I hadn't seen in a while. He's kind of moved interstate, and I remember when he was here, he was training. He went over there, new ventures and whatever, new job. And when I saw him after several years, he said, no, I don't train anymore. And when I said, why? He's like, dude, it's one of those things that you have to put so much effort, into it, and the return is so poor. He said, it takes so much time. I go to the gym, I put in 2 hours, I train so hard, and the effects of that training is so transient. And he says, if you do that much effort in many other fields, the return is a lot better. which is probably why a lot of people don't train, is because the gains are very, very slow. Noob gains are great. You know, when you first pick up something, the gains are amazing, both physically, strength-wise, aesthetically. You see results. And then when you get to sort of my level, I've been training 5-6 years now, and seriously in terms of strength, and the gains have kind of halted in many respects when it comes to training. You have to train 300 days to see 5 kilo increase. Not that that's the case, but it's basically it's not far off. So I can see why a lot of people say, "Oh, screw that! I'll just rather be a normal body and just put my effort somewhere else." My whole thing is, just do it. Like, to me, training is one of those things that I feel like everyone should be doing it. Now, I'm not saying you should be squatting every day and you should be busting your balls every day, but you should be doing something every single day. Whether it's walking, whether it's this, whether it's that. And there are, diminishing returns here. It's not a linear relationship. It's not like if you put, 2 hours a day, you get this many gains. If you put 4 hours a day, you get double. It's not like that. But when you superimpose a bit of time onto it, and you say, "Oh, this guy's squatting 240 kilos," and when somebody sees you, you're like, "Damn, that's pretty cool." But they don't know how much training you've done. So it's one of those things. Like, I think we're all kind of different. But certainly when I spoke to her at work, it was kind of a refreshing idea, because from her mind, it's like, the math doesn't add up. That's a whole lot of effort for not a lot of gain. Now, let me get a set. Oh man, got a pump in the legs big time. So the question automatically becomes, what would I be happy with at the end of the year, day 365, if I make it that far in terms of squatting every day? What would I be happy with the gains? It's been a goal of mine for a long time to hit 200 kilos in the squat. So I would say if I hit 200 kilos in the squat, I'd be happy. Now, anything above that, extra happy. But what really excites me about training, I've said this in the past, is not so much the literal number on the bar. It's the actual journey. It's the actual act of training. It's the intellectual part of training. It's kind of like, the logbook of training. I write this stuff down and I approach it with a scientific method. Change a variable, see what's happening, and I conclude. So I measure every day. Basically, I record every day, then I measure it out, and I see if it's working or not. The most exciting thing for me is when I find it, when I find the right recipe for success. So right now, I'm doing a whole bunch of volume with a whole little weight. So a lot of reps, a little weight, see the result. Up until now, I've been doing a lot of weight, little volume, see what's happening. So I'm constantly changing the variables, and the logbook is becoming a valuable resource for me to actually track and plan for the future. So the most exciting thing is if I see improvements, and then I just jump on that bandwagon and keep going. You know, I remember each time I've made gains in the gym, it was always kind of in a little wave. You know, it was never like a steady incremental, you know, step by step progress where it was very linear and you know, I carried that, you know, manner of training for months on end. It's kept increasing. It's never been like that for me. It's always been like, you know, train, improve a little bit, plateau, and then jump, and then plateau, and then jump. It's always been like that for me. Now, I'm coming from somebody that 5 years ago started with no knowledge of programming, no knowledge of strength training. I just used to train until the burn, and then I put it down. There was no real progression. That's how I trained. You know, I kind of went completely by feel, and I didn't really understand, you know, how to go about training. And then I started reading more, and everything kind of came into its own. So there was a whole lot of learning there as well, where I made heaps of mistakes, and I continue making mistakes. I really do. But like I said before, like I'm not getting paid for this. I don't have, you know, livelihoods, you know, at risk here with my mistakes. So I take it as purely as a hobby, and I have big ambitions. I want to squat 300 kilos. That's my goal, right? So how do you break that down? I feel as though as the years have gone on, I've kind of gotten better and better with planning, understanding training, understanding what my body has been telling me, and I've kind of made changes to kind of feel better about that, about the progress. So yeah, I feel great. I feel motivated. As long as you stay motivated, if you say to yourself, 5 kilos next year, oh fuck, oh man, that's really demoralizing, I'm gonna stop training. If that happens to you, then I guess I don't know what to tell you, because there's gonna be times where you're gonna be stagnant. Unless you're being coached by somebody that really knows what they're doing from the get-go, and you're paying somebody, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars every year for improvement, and you're not improving, you're purely going by them, then I guess it's a money thing, and you're like, what am I paying this guy for if I'm not improving? So there's many aspects to it. For me, I look at it as kind of like a long-term thing. I'm hopeful that I'm going to improve. If I don't, I'm also happy, because I actually enjoy this. This is the funny thing about it. Like, I'm not goal-driven. I actually enjoy training. As much as this sounds weird to you guys, I actually enjoy training, even if I don't become a world champion, right? Some of you guys train to be world champions. Even if I don't become a world champion, I'm happy. I really am. I'm just happy, man. Just happy to be here. There's also an embarrassing component to training. Oh, how long have you been training, man? I've been training 5 years. What's your squat? Oh, it's 180. Embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. Because, you know, people say, time's ticking by, your so-called training, the results are not there, and when somebody asks you how long you've been training, it's embarrassing. You were training for 5 years, you can only do the 180? Damn, man. So there's a whole lot of anxiety when it comes to training. I've felt it. And that's probably one of the biggest driving factors of quitting. Because, you know, people put in hard effort, they don't see the returns, they just give it up. You know, oh, it's not for me, I don't have the genetic potential, blah, blah, blah. Oftentimes, if you persist, you'll work it out. It's like with anything, we're all different, you will work it out. What works for one guy won't work for the other guy. So it's a matter of persisting and looking for the right ingredients to get you there. That's how I look at it. We are able bodies, so there's no reason for us not be able to, like, you know, work it out and get to the next level. This is why I train. I train because when I do kind of work it out as I go along, it feels so amazing, man. It's the hardest puzzle that I have to deal with in my daily life. On a personal level, you know. On a personal level, is the hardest thing that I'm doing selfishly. You know, it's an individual thing. You know, I've got family, job, work, you know, all that stuff going on. But this is kind of like my one-on-one problem where, you know, I have to work it out. And so for me, it's just really cool in that sense. And so when you work it out, just like individual sports, like tennis, for example, like when you work it out, when you break through, it's you. You worked it out. You put in the hard yards. You know, that's the really cool thing about this training. When I put 10 kilos on the bar, I can't look around, you know, and say, oh yeah, that guy did it. You know, Jordan took us there. I'm this guy on the team, you know, but Jordan, he's the man. He's the guy who did this. No, when it comes to this shit, it's you. You know, the bar's not gonna lift itself. No one's gonna lift it for you. It's you. You can't buy it. You know, money is not gonna help you here. This is all your hard work. That's the beautiful thing, man. It's usually the things that money don't buy are usually the best things in life. All right, let's get 80 on the bar. All right, it's 80. All right, let's get it. So let's go to 10 here. You guys probably already know what I'm doing without even me telling you.
Another thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is don't think you're hardcore. You're not. You're really not. Me training at 5 a.m, what I'm doing here, a pussy can do this. If you get educated about real hard asses in the world, you know, Navy SEALs, you know, Special Forces, you know, just look at anyone. The combat sports dudes, MMA guys, their training regimen, it's freaking embarrassing when you compare some of the world leading athletes to yourself. So that 5 a.m. rise, 5 a.m. training session is a piece of cake when you've got your eyes set on some of those guys. It's embarrassing. If you surround yourself with weak, mediocre people who train for comfort, you're gonna feel like a badass waking up at 5 a.m. doing it. It's around your surroundings. So take a minute and think about that for a second. This is not hardcore. You know, there are guys who put in the real hard yards, gut-wrenching workouts at 3 o'clock in the morning, freezing rain, snow, they're running. They're doing sprints, they're hiking, they're doing all sorts of shit. So the least you can do is put some sort of effort every day. And don't let that voice in your head tell you otherwise. Because if you want to be a badass, you have to train like a badass. So work towards that. That's kind of what drives me. Because through years of watching sports, I've kind of realized what the best do. The best work their ass off. So that's another thing. If I feel like my results are not coming, the first thought is, am I working hard enough? Am I working hard enough? Would the results come quicker if I worked hard enough? That's the question that should be asking yourself. Hunger is the biggest thing when it comes to sports in general. You see guys in sports all the time who work really hard, put up amazing numbers, amazing seasons. The moment they sign a big contract, the chances are they're going to drop off the following year. Why? Because they're well fed. The hunger's not there anymore. They've so-called made it. The so-called made it is different between athletes. Some guys chase glory, other guys chase fame, some guys chase money. So 7-year contract worth 115 million, 120 million. Talking about a basketball, you know, back in the day when they used to give out 7-year deals. Done, guys drop off and that's it. Only the special dudes are like, nah, I don't care about the money. I'm here to be the best in the game. So oftentimes, the people who have had struggles lifting, chasing their dreams, and they've had heaps of obstacles, their hunger is going to be crazier because they've had to kind of fight harder for those gains. The dudes that have kind of been the lucky ones and things have come easy to them, you can put that into any conversation in terms of life. The guys who've had the silver spoon fed to them the whole life, they don't really understand adversity. they don't understand what it is to fight. And it's those struggles that make you a champion. It's the losses that make you a champion. It's that pain that makes you a champion. So if you've gone 2 or 3 years without putting in any gains and you're sticking with it, the chances are you're a hungry motherfucker. The chances are that you're pissed off, you won this. And so in those scrappy days, rainy days, if you want to call it, is where you build that hunger, that passion, that work ethic. It's not during the sunny days and the days when you're lifting the trophy. Those are not growing days. The growing days are the painful days. So just never forget that. Embrace the challenge, embrace the suck. David Goggins always says, embrace the suck. Embrace being shit. Let that fuel you. And so, if you're having a shit day, think to yourself, this is fuel. When you're having a good day, okay, you're reaping the rewards. Move on. Build on. I mean, these are the real factors of mental health when it comes to training. You know, the bar doesn't lie. Gravity doesn't lie. It will break most people down. Most people will quit. Do you want to be that guy that quits? It's up to you. But you're not going to put up any meaningful numbers if you quit. The guys that do put up big numbers, they're mentally stronger. You know, they're putting more hard yards, and you know, good on them. Good on them for putting up with it. You know, they've got a bigger coping mechanism than you, and that's what it is. So my mate who stopped training because it's too hard, that's fine, man. I felt sorry for him when I heard that. I'm like, all right, no worries. Look for something that's easier for you. You know, look for something that's easier. Hopefully you find that thing that's easier, because anything that you want to become great at, the chances are there's 7 billion people on the planet. You're gonna have to work hard at anything that you pick. So you're not gonna find a specialty where you can just master it overnight. It's not gonna happen. Oh, it's 140 now. In terms of quantifying how many reps, how much time it takes to become a master of something, I've heard figures like it takes 10 years to become a master of something if you're doing it every day, or elite or whatever. That gives you an idea. I've actually heard other lifters say, put in 10 years and they come talk to me. It's human nature, man. Like we always look for the easy way out. We look for the silver bullet. We look for something that's going to quickly get us there without hard yards. It's the human evolution, right? The human brain has always thought that way. How do I get out of the cave? How do I get warmer? How do I start this fire? How do I do this? It's always looking for an easier way out for survival purposes. Unfortunately, there's some things that you can't cheat your way through. And the humans have found a way. They've developed steroids. We've developed all sorts of things to kind of quicken the process of biology, I guess, or maximize biology. So you're always going to have that. But like I said to you, the longer the plight, the longer the struggle, there's benefits there. There's benefits in the struggle, and if you continue looking for ways to get out of the struggle, I think you're missing out on the actual juice of whatever you're doing. It's the struggle that counts. It really does. I've said this to people in my life. You should
you should do something that gives you great displeasure every day, that gives you, that takes away comfort. I think everyone should do something, and especially if you can do it first thing in the morning, like a cold shower. Just walk in, freezing cold shower, turn it on. It does something to our psyche. It does something. It's contrast to the day. So everything else good in the day is going to feel so much better because you've had that pain, that discomfort. I truly think that's what happens. And I feel like depression, anxiety, mental health, a lot of mental health illnesses basically come from as a byproduct of too much comfort in our society. We just go from one comfort to another. It's like a sugar addict. 2 teaspoons is good today, but in a year's time you're gonna have to have 3 teaspoons, and it continues going on. Eventually, you run out of teaspoons, you run out of sugar. You can't consume any more comfort, and so people start feeling depressed. Well, if you go in the other direction, you just jump into a freezing pool or have a cold shower. That's a shit feeling. You hyperventilate, your skin turns blue. It's very uncomfortable. But then you get out, and just being out of that space, you feel amazing. And then you add 2 teaspoons of sugar. Fuck, incredible. So discomfort is fuel for growth. I truly believe that. I feel like everyone should understand that. Yeah, that's how I feel, man. All right, 140. Let's see if this moves well. I really want to hit higher than 140. I'm feeling I want to hit like 150 today, maybe 160. Let's see how it goes. So I'm going to truly focus on staying upright in this lift. A fella on YouTube also asked me, he just found my channel, and he asked me, maybe he'll hear this, I'm not sure, it's pretty late in the video if you listen to the video all the way this far in, but the question was, how do you train without listening to music? And I laugh because I used to listen to music all the time as well. It used to be one of those things where the gym was a boring place without music. But then I read Matt Perriman's book, Squatting Every Day. I got into Pavel Tsatsouline, and what I heard was basically psyching up is a really bad idea in terms of recovery. Psyching up drains you more than the actual physical training. So if you continuously psyching up, looking for better and better beats to kind of get your blood pumping, then you're kind of eating into your recovery, because excitement, any sort of excitement, emotional arousal, it takes a lot from you. So if you can lift in a calm state, like you're watching the grass grow, just completely clinical. Come in, do your lifts and get out. You're gonna find that you recover a lot better. So when you're squatting every day to a training maximum, you wanna make sure that recovery is at the top of your list. So I don't wanna psych up every day. If I listen to heavy metal every single day, you would just get basically exhausted from the arousal from the music. So sometimes I turn on music, but a lot of the times I'm training in these weird hours. I don't want to upset the neighbors, and that's another factor. But occasional day I'll put on my favorite beats and whatever, and I'll listen to it. But during those days, I generally find that I'm more pumped and I generally lift more weight. So tiptoeing around that, I don't want to exhaust myself, because it's all about the next day. It's all about putting in another day's work, and after a while you get used to it, man. I kind of enjoy the calm. Especially if you've got kids, man. I come in here and I actually enjoy the calm. If I go from yelling and screaming to some other yelling and screaming, then I don't get a break. This is kind of like a calm environment. I come in here, I lift, sit down with my thoughts. It's kind of cool. I don't know. All right, 150.
That moved well. Let's go 160. So 160, I think last week I did, that was my PR. So if I can hit this, I'm happy. I gotta hurry up as well, gotta get ready and go to work. So hopefully 160 moves well. Like I always say, squatting is all about keeping upright. If you can keep your integrity of your upper back, you're good. If you start rounding over, you're screwed. The lift goes to shit. So looking up, I spoke about it yesterday, looking up but tucking the chin in, so the bar kind of goes deeper into your center of mass, is really good. If you just stick your neck up while in this position, it's not gonna work. You wanna do this and up. You kind of like, basically take your head off. Take your head off and put a bar on where your neck is. That's basically what you gotta do. It's all about leverages, man. Like this stuff is all about leverages. That's where technique becomes so important, especially if you want to lift and get stronger with same body weight. Something has to give, man. Something has to, you know, you see these guys, all the lifters who are like squatting some stupid weight and they're like small stature, small figures, man. Hard day, what's lifting that? And a lot of the times these guys are perfectly upright. Perfectly upright ass to grass. And they use the bounce, you know, they use the strongest muscles in the body. They kind of hide the weaker muscles. So it's very technical stuff. And a lot of the times, like with the whippy bars, Olympic weightlifting bars, there's a lot of flex. And so, you know, the front rack position, they go down and there's a bit of a bounce. And when the bar bounces, there's a bit of kind of like a reflex of the bar. And so that so there's acceleration from the get-go, from the bounce against the calves, and then they just kind of fire that up. And so I saw a guy squat 330 kilos. He was a big guy. Man, there was so much flex in that bar. Like I almost felt like he was holding onto the bar, and the bar was taking him there after the bounce at the bottom. So there's all sorts of technique. This is where, like, if you see somebody pause squats a certain weight, it's impressive, man, because there's no flex in the bar, there's no whip in the bar, it's just all muscle, it's all just power. All right, let's not waste any more time here. 160. I reckon I'm gonna call it there. Bit of a struggle. Maybe next week I'll go up in weight a little bit. Kind of heavy. So that's it, guys. Another training session. Gotta get ready. Gotta go to work. So I'll catch you tomorrow.